Okay, so I'm Julie Willoughby, and I'm a chemical engineer. I worked in industry for 14 years and became an assistant professor in 2010 here in the College of Textiles.
Okay. What is your specific field of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics?
Well, as I mentioned, it's chemical engineering, but I specialize in polymer science and surface science.
Okay. What made you decide on your career choice?
Well, in high school, I went to an all-girls high school, which was a great experience, first off, and had a wonderful science teacher pretty much the whole time, except for 1 year I had a different science teacher. They were both good. But she was very supportive of us, and I ended up really loving her chemistry, and then the math I liked that as well compared to the English and some of the other studies, even though I was an avid reader. So I decided to do chemical engineering. I went to a local university for engineers for a day and went on tours of all different kinds of disciplines. And I don't know that I ever saw what a chemical engineer did on this tour, but I still left thinking that that was what I liked better out of all of it.
Okay. What made you decide to do graduate work and pursue a higher degree?
Well, it's interesting because I graduated with my undergrad, my Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering in 1992. So I was driving to work today and realized that was 20 years ago, about now. And I obviously haven't been a teacher and professor since then. So I worked for 10 years in between graduating and grad school, which is a huge gap. When I went back to grad school, I didn't even remember how to do calculus, but it came rushing back very quickly. And I decided, for one, this is where I had reached in my career, and I had a great career with my Bachelor's of Science, which is what attracted me to engineering in the first place, because you can do a lot with a BS. But I also really liked exploring in the lab, just doing science. So that when I was doing that in business and industry, I would start to kind of go on a side and really try and go deep dive. And sometimes that is acceptable, and sometimes it's not. And it appealed to me to be a professor and faculty and run my own research group and have students to mentor. And so that's why I decided to go back.
Okay. One example from our text for this course was about two females, Evelyn Fox Keller and Evelyn Hammonds, who are given fewer chances in graduate school due to their gender and race. Have you ever experienced this?
Never, not in graduate school. Do you have a later question that says in career?
Yeah, in the workforce. Yeah.
Okay. Not in graduate school, and I pretty much had every opportunity. I think as women, and I've noticed this with some of the classes I teach, and I do surveys, and I have the students rank themselves and how they think they performed on a project. And it's very typical of what you do in the workforce. So at the end of the year, many companies are going to, okay, you rate yourself first and write up what you accomplished and how well you did, and then the manager will give their rating. And it streamlines the manager's work, but you also get a perception of the disconnect between what the employee thinks they're capable of and the manager. And what I consistently found when I look at these opinions of students, the females students are always ranking themselves much lower than even the lowest performing male student. And I think it's that gap of confidence between a very qualified woman who's more self-critical than the male counterpart who is pretty good with themselves, even if they're maybe not the highest performer, but they're pretty satisfied. They're confident. And that worry and lack of confidence in women is detrimental. And it's detrimental because it takes your energy away from doing as good of a job as you can. And that's a very I don't know if it's innate or if it's taught, but you definitely need to look for people that help build you up. And if you're in situations that don't provide that,
Okay.
to get out of them.
Okay. From our text, one of the articles said that previous research identified the number of advanced mathematics and science courses taken in high school as the strongest direct influence on a choice of a quantitative undergraduate major. Do you agree with this statement or believe it is true?
I don't agree with it, actually.
Okay.
And I think part of that is coming back into academia and education 25 years later from my high school experience. As an advisor, I'm always surprised at how many credits students are coming in with.
Right.
And sometimes, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so this is all anecdotal, but they say that people who clip out of or pass out of so many of the calculus classes early on and don't take them at the college level don't do as well.
Okay.
In college. And I mean, I didn't take calculus in high school. I took pre-calculus, and I did take all the science classes, but they were just standard. I don't think it was as rigorous as some of the schools are now. And it was really the encouragement. The single most encouragement I had was from my teachers at school. So they were that supportive environment. So was probably better than being at a school where there were all these advanced and competitive nature where I might have said, well, forget this, I'm going to go do something else. And then I had my family's reinforcement too, and I think that was key.
Okay. So out of your support group, did you have a role model that you looked up specifically to during undergraduate or graduate work, and were they female? In my undergraduate work, I would have to say that I did have role models, but there was not just one. And I think that comes true for mentoring too, that there's a lot of great programs out there about mentoring and formal mentor programs. But when you really, it's just like finding friends to hang out with. It's people that you click with, and as long as you seek these people, whether they're male or female, you can get a lot of good insight from them and being open and receptive. I co-op during undergraduate school, and every other semester I worked at a large chemical company. And I don't think that I would have made it through the program of chemical engineering if I didn't do that. So you feel like the co-op helped you a lot?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Do you have any advice for females that might be uncertain about pursuing a degree in STEM?
I think if there is any inkling of desire to want to do it, you should do it. I think you should try it.
Okay. Did you ever participate in any activities in high school or college that promoted women to go into a STEM field of study?
I did, and I think going to the all-girls high school, that was very, very much built us up as academics and as being very well prepared for college. Even though I still found college my first year to be very challenging and probably kind of an eye-opener. So I do think that went a long way with me choosing the field that I did.
Okay. So did a particular class or a teacher spark your interest in STEM?
Yes, my science teacher.
Okay.
And she is, I went to a parochial high school. His sister, Ethel, would probably be a Nobel scientist if she wasn't in her, if she was out there instead of teaching and training young women. Okay.
So I know you said you didn't have any discrimination because of your gender, but were you ever put down by teachers or peers?
No. I never was. There was one incident that was kind of funny. I think maybe sometimes, and it's almost that I still remember, and this is 20 years later that I remember this. I was taking a physical chemistry class, and at one point, and this is maybe issues that women have to deal with versus men, there was my group of girlfriends who, for some reason, decided to stop paying attention, and wanting to fit in, I started to hang out with them, during class, and we weren't learning anything. It was a total waste of our time and money, and not to mention disrespect for the teacher. But she came up when I then proceeded to fail the next exam, and I went to talk to her about it. She said, "Why are you doing that? Usually the females my girl students are the best students." And so from then I kind of shaped up. So I don't think that was ever a put down, but it was just still putting gender into perspective in the classroom.
So I know you said you went to an all-girls high school, but during your schooling in undergrad or graduate work, were your classes dominated by males?
Definitely, and in fact, one of the reasons I went into chemical engineering is my brother said I would be one of the only girls, and I was tired of being in all-girl classrooms, and so I thought that would be really great. And I never felt dominated by the males.
You felt like you could hold your own?
Yeah.